2-2 against Bournemouth. First up is Vicario. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him an 8. I mean, he earned that 8 probably in the first just the 5 minutes of that game where we could have been 2-0 down. Brilliant saves. One getting down low, I think, to Evan Nilsson's shot, which I thought was a brilliant save. And could he have done better with the goal that we conceded potentially? But I think he just saves us so much. It seems like game in, game out now. He's making, I know we're losing some of these games, but he's saving us from embarrassing scorelines week in, week out.
Yeah, he's definitely making some brilliant saves. I did think his distribution was a bit of a problem yesterday, and I think he was making some bad decisions when playing out the back. But
is that him or is that instruction though?
I think it was him.
It's not instruction obviously to play bad passes, but like it's clear instruction to just keep it short and to try and play under pressure in the press.
That wasn't my problem with him. My problem was he was making bad decisions when playing out the back, and there was sometimes there was a player free, didn't use him, and he went to a player under more pressure. And I think that that's definitely on Vicario. I don't think Ange is telling him to do that. Obviously, he plays it very quickly, and Ange wants him to get the ball back in play quite quickly. He doesn't want to have the ball kind of stop dead and stuff like that, and he doesn't want Vicario to go long from goal kicks. So that's all on Ange. But when he's got Danso free to his right, and he goes for someone who's marked essentially to his left, and it puts us under pressure, I think that's on Vicario, in my opinion. But he made some brilliant saves. Definitely the one from Clive and the one from Evan Nilsson in the beginning. To be fair, apart from those two saves, how many other big saves did he actually make? I'm trying to remember.
I'm trying to see how many saves he actually made in the game. It says he made 6 saves from inside the box.
Yeah, he made 6 saves, but
from inside the box.
But how many of those saves were like?
It says goals prevented 0.54.
So he's XG prevented. So I mean, it's not pretty. That's pretty good, I would say. Save, but I think apart from those 2 saves, I'm just trying to remember anything that was really glaring before that, but still played pretty well. We know he's an unbelievable shot stopper, and I think he's proven that since he's come back in the team, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. His long ball accuracy was, he attempted 9 and 1 successful.
Yeah, that was a problem, and that's what people always point out. Oh, why is he always playing short? And then he plays long, and that's also a problem because he's only got he's not the best long passer, Vicario, as well. I don't think he's terrible though, to be fair. I think he's better than a lot of other keepers in the league, but he's just not. He's no Kinski, put it that way.
Let's move on to Jed Spence. He gives him a 5. I gave him a 6. Look, he's got to be doing better with tracking the run of Tavernier for the goal that he scored. And I was getting quite frustrated with Jed at times as well because, again, a bit similar to the last game against Alkmaar, I felt like at points when we were trying to play it out the back, he was getting quite frustrated and he kept trying to dribble out the black at times and lost the ball on a number of occasions. But apart from that, I thought like he did well at certain times in the tight spaces to try and provide the ball into the midfield. But it wasn't his greatest display by any stretch of the imagination. There was one really good last man challenge on there as well.
Yeah, did really well. Sorry, should have done a lot better when for the first goal for sure, no doubt about it. Loses Tavernier, falls asleep at the back post. There was some occasions though he did link up quite well with Odubeko, I felt, on that left hand side when he was getting forward, but I also felt like again he's trying to kind of dribble his way out of trouble a bit too much, and sometimes plays his way into trouble. I think his was kind of having struggles from build up and giving the ball away, but was involved in the penalty that we got. Good link up between him and Son and into Madison. So I think he's on the left and he was looking a bit at home at times when he was on the ball going forward, but definitely wasn't his best display in recent weeks.
Yeah, it feels like the last 2 displays now from Jed Spence have been a step in the other direction. Like it's not at the levels that we were seeing in previous weeks.
Yeah.
Let's move on because Kuti Romero falls all round. Captain on the day, Kuti. It was great to see him back in the starting lineup, but then within the first minute of after that excitement kind of died down, he makes a horrible and lets Evan Nilsson in, which could have been 1-0, which probably should have been 1-0. And horror pass, and he was full of mistakes pretty much whole afternoon. I did feel like he kind of worked his way into the game at some point, but the fouls back to kind of rash Romero that we were accustomed to seeing a while ago. poor foul at the edge of our area that left them with a dangerous free kick, and there was one up the other end of the pitch as well where he probably doesn't need to make a foul. But look, regardless of that, I think the hour in his legs will do him well for Thursday night. It was clear to see that he's been out for a while and he's just a bit kind of out of practice, really, and he needs to get back into the swing of things. I've no doubt Cuti Romero is a top quality defender, and this hour in his legs is going to do him the world of good. But I don't know about you. I was thinking about this at the game yesterday. Whenever Romero has the armband on, he seems to put in a bit of a stinker.
When was the last time that happened?
I can't remember the game it was. Was it in Europe, or I can't? Maybe someone in the chat can tell me which game it was. But I do remember him the last time he had the armband on. He was really poor.
Yeah, I can't remember, but yeah, as you say, it was great to see him, and then it wasn't great to see him at the same time. I feel like when you've been out for so long, you're thrust back into the action for your first minutes in 4 months. I think rustiness is obviously going to happen as well. He's playing with a new centre-back partnership in Danso. He's playing for the first time with Spence, even like the likes of Bergvall and a lot of these players he's playing for the first time with. So I think that gets a lot of adjustment too, and I think definitely the decision making was very rusty, making a lot of decisions, poor decisions, especially right at the start. Definitely didn't look at his best for sure, especially on the ball. A lot of bad passes, a lot of bad mistakes. I did think he got a bit better as the game went on, and wasn't as bad as he was in the first 10 minutes, and was also winning a lot of headers in the box, both for and against us. And that was really good. And I think the hour would have really helped him, but. Yeah, he definitely has a lot of improving to do for sure based off that game.
Yeah, Kevin Danso up next. Him gives him a 5. I gave him a 6. Obviously, he's got to be doing better with the second goal. Was it? Yeah, the second goal.
I think both goals really.
Well, the second goal he gets completely sold by Cliver, and he doesn't track him well enough. But I actually felt throughout our back four he was probably the strongest from a defensive standpoint than any of them. Like, I don't think Romero was holding himself in any glory. Same with Spence or Porro. And I felt like Danso, from a defensive capability, was probably the best out of the lot.
Yeah, he was all right, I think. I still think he should have done better with both goals. I think he gets caught under the ball for the first one. And I think the second one, just completely steps out when he doesn't need to. Cliver just rolls the ball past him, is very easy in it, and it's another goal. I think he maybe suffered a bit from Romero-itis in that moment, just being a bit too rash, and he was partnered with Van der Ven, so I guess maybe it was kind of his responsibility to be a bit more front-footed. I think on the ball wasn't... I think when he was, again, driving the ball at his feet, he was good, but his passing wasn't great in this one. I don't think he made enough kind of good passing angles for Romero as well when they were on the pitch together. Didn't make himself available enough, so that was disappointing considering how he's been in other games. Be interesting to see what he does on Thursday with Danso specifically, but I don't think it was a shocker, but I think in both goals could have done better.
Pedro Porro up next. 4s all round for Pedro. Obviously, we're going to highlight the first goal that we conceded, just a really bad pass that put us in all sorts of trouble down our right-hand side, down left-hand side, where Kirkheads obviously puts in a wonder ball for Tavernier at the back post, and that all comes from Pedro Porro's sloppy pass and him being left out of position. And I felt there was a number of really poor passes from Pedro Porro throughout the game. However, I would say that, he was a fairly good outlet on that right-hand side as well, where he made a number of really dangerous and inviting passes and crosses throughout the day.
Yeah, and I think we know going forward, he's always got that quality, and I think he did provide that when he was in the forward areas. That delivery was still pretty good, and set pieces were good, but off the ball, obviously the first goal, the way he gave it away was shocking, leaving us exposed. And he was also playing way too often some blind passes into the middle of the park, which just unnecessarily put us out of trouble. Sometimes he makes some really bad decisions, Porro, when he's on the ball. And I think sometimes when you watch like Trent, he can have these games where he gets the ball and he just goes long and just punts it, or just makes some poor decisions because he knows he's got the quality that if he tries it enough times, it's going to come off. And I think Porro sometimes does that as well, but without as much quality as Trent, so it comes off less even. But we know that Porro has got a lot of quality in his legs, and I think when we go forward, we see it. but unfortunately sometimes he's in his own half and there's a simple pass on and he tries an extravagant ball for no reason, and sometimes it ends up biting us in the arse, and I think he's got to work on that.
Bentancur up next, 3s all round for Rodrigo, and yeah, I'm sorry, but it was a horrible display from him, and it's so up and down from him at the moment. It's really frustrating because one week you're thinking, all right, you know, this guy could do the job, and the next week he just puts in an absolute stinker. Unfortunately, against this Bournemouth team, it was an absolute stinker. It was just nowhere near aggressive enough in the middle of the park from him. He was coming second best to, I think, a lot of 50-50s on the day. And yeah, just when you're coming up against this kind of Bournemouth midfield, when they're going to be bang up for it and really aggressive, you need to match that intensity, and I just don't think he could do that.
Yeah, I agree. I think in the first half, it was one of the worst performances I've ever seen from any midfielder from us this season. I thought he was absolutely shambolic. The amount of times he gave the ball away in simple areas. There was even one moment where, again, similar to Porro, striding forward, we've got a really good attack on. He's got Porro to his right, I think it was. He had Solanke ahead of him. He had options, and he just plays the ball behind Porro, and it goes out of play. He had time and time and time. He was waiting and waiting. Could have played it early. He waited and waited, and then plays the ball out of play. There was a number of times he's trying these quick interchanges and it's just loose. He's playing it blind. He's giving the ball away. He's just giving it straight back to the opposition. Really, really sloppy, and I thought he was a shambles in that first half. Also, he lost a few 50-50 challenges as well. Even off the ball, wasn't particularly impressive. I thought it was slightly better when he went into the 6, to be honest. So that was, I mean, I wouldn't say a positive, but he was a bit better. But he obviously lasted another 15 minutes before he got taken off. But I thought that first half, one of the worst performances I've seen from a midfielder for Tottenham this season.
Bissouma, Sim gives him a 4. I gave him a 2. I was so frustrated. He only lasted 45 minutes, but I was getting so frustrated with him. Obviously, in the first couple of minutes, an awful pass to let Bournemouth in with a shot, which could have been another goal in the very early stages of the game. And I just thought, he was just losing the ball in such key areas for us in the park, and he just lacks a lot of care on the ball at times. And other times he can drive forward and look really good, but I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on with Bissouma, but it's too erratic from him at times, particularly in big games. And I know this wasn't a big game as such, but against a team like Bournemouth that are going to press you into oblivion, you need to have more wits about you, and I just don't think he has that.
Yeah, I agree. I think he really struggled with Bournemouth's pressing, especially with his back to goal in that first half. When Bissouma's really confident at his best, when he takes the ball with his back to goal and he can kind of turn out trouble and knows where the space is. And I thought Bournemouth really exploited him kind of being a bit blind in those situations. And his touch was absolutely like a trampoline. It was horrific, just bouncing off him way too often. However, I did think it was a bit better than Bentancur on some moments. I think there were some moments where I actually picked the ball up from deep and was able to find some really clever passes. I think both to Bentancur and to Porro, both free right in the middle of the park, was from some really good passing from Bissouma. And I think that actually opened up the pitch quite a bit and should have really led to chances for Tottenham. I also thought off the ball, he was better than Bentancur as well, was competing a lot more, making a few more tackles, getting around the pitch a bit more. So I thought he was actually unlucky to be taken off compared to Bentancur. I thought Bentancur was worse, but he still, wasn't great as well.
Pape gets a 6 all round from us, and yeah, I thought he was the best of a really bad bunch in the middle of the park for Spurs, definitely from the starters anyway. And even in the first half, I thought he was being aggressive. He was buzzing around like he usually does, and I think it's a step forward, this performance from Sarr, than what we've seen. He actually had a good cameo last week, didn't he? And he's backed it up with a competent display. Let's say, I'm not going to say it's a worldie of a display, but definitely a competent display. And on top of that, as well, a bit creative. 3 key passes on the day, got into good scoring opportunities. Obviously, with the chance that Madison laid on a plate for him. And he scores an absolute worldie to get us back into the game now. Just a cross that finds its way in at the back post, and he seemed almost embarrassed to celebrate that.
Yeah, and yeah, he should have done better with that chance that Madison set up for him as well. I thought it was a much better performance from Pape, getting in really good positions. I think he was the one. I wouldn't say showed so much quality when he was on the ball, but showed a bit more of a willingness to ask different questions of his position and where Bournemouth were on the pitch. I think yeah, he got into a few more goal scoring positions than the likes of Basuma and Bentacle for sure. Wasn't as sloppy as them as well. I think in the second half provided some really good energy for the team. Obviously got his goal with a bit of luck, but I think it was a much better performance compared to Bentacle Basuma for Pape.
Brennan,
and he was fasting as well, so credit to him.
Oh, was he fasting on the day? Yeah, that's credit to him. Next up is Brennan Johnson. 3s all round for Brennan. Really poor. Another ghost performance. Like, just keeps playing in to the narrative when people say if he doesn't score, he's not really doing much on the pitch. And yeah, another example of that yesterday. Failed to take on his man, and any time he got one-on-one with his defender, it just seems like he passed it backwards or passed it sideways. The only real thing of note I remember him doing is tracking back and making a few challenges in our half. Apart from that, I don't think he did anything.
What was really frustrating is actually there was what I can remember was a couple of times, especially when there was one on Hyson. He's got him squared up. He actually takes him on and beats him. He gets beyond him. And what he's got to do at that point is cut across him and try either win a foul or make Hyson bring him down, or he can get into a goal scoring position. But instead of that, instead of cutting across him, he gets beyond him, then he cuts back and goes backwards. Yeah, I didn't understand it. It's like, you got beyond him. Like, why are you going backwards? Keep going, you're faster than him. He had the beating of him, and he did the same to Kirkes as well. There was one moment he got the beating of Kirkes. It looked like, okay, just get beyond him, and he cuts back. And I don't understand it. So frustrating. Yeah, I think was he taken off at half time? Deservedly. I think Odubeko should have shown a lot more on the right than he did. I thought he was very, very frustrating. Needs to just be a bit more of a killer. I know he's a killer when he's in front of goal and he's a good finisher, but when he's got that pace about him, use it. And I feel like way too often he's just scared, or I don't know, he's scared of losing the ball, or he doesn't want to go for it. He deservedly got taken off. He was a very, very frustrating performance and needs to do better.
Yeah. Dom Solanke back in the starting lineup, much to all our surprise. I couldn't believe it when I saw Solanke in the videos coming into the stadium. 5 for Sim, 6 for me, basically just for sheer work rate, pretty much. Because I don't think he had too much of a positive impact to our attacking play, but what he does do, he chases down everything, he never stops running, gives so much to the team in that aspect, and he just adds so much to the team as well when he just drops deep and kind of provides his link-up play. That's something that none of our other forwards pretty much can give us. So it wasn't a great display from Solanke, but it was great to see him back and great to see these little aspects coming back into our game. Yeah,
I think he definitely made a difference. I think he definitely, you could see the impact he can make on the pitch compared to Tell beforehand. He can hold the ball up, he can hold off defenders, he can make the ball stick. I did think there were times in the middle of the park we saw really good stuff from him, linking up with Tell and Madison and getting the ball into good areas. Unfortunately for him, when the ball came into the box, he wasn't threatening enough for my liking, and I'd like to see him, having more shots and things like that. That's when I think Solanke's at his best, but definitely the work rate and his ability on the ball, his touch and those kind of things, that was really, really welcome return, and hopefully with more game time we'll see even more from that and more goals as well.
Last as the starting 11, Wilson Odubeko. Sim gives him a 6. I gave him a 5. Really up and down game from Odubeko, to be honest. I thought when we started getting into our groove a little bit, Odubeko was our most dangerous player. And out on the left-hand side, he was driving at his man. He was looking to force the issue and show his dribbling ability was on show. But then kind of his end product was really poor. Then he kind of vanished out the game a little bit and started to lose the ball quite regularly. And then when he moved over to the right-hand side, that kind of came back into his game where he was looking dangerous again. But then his end product was poor. So, it was kind of all bark but no bite from Odubeko. But he is exciting when he gets on the ball and gets into his flow, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think what I like about Odubeko compared to like Brennan at times is he has a bit more ability to get involved in the game, link up with other players, little short bursts past certain players in the middle third as well. He looks bright, he looks exciting, just needs to work on that quality, picking people out in the final third when he gets to the byline and when he gets into the penalty box. He needs to be better decision making, but that, a lot of times with young wingers that can always be their problem a lot of the time when They look bright, they're sharp, good at dribbling, and then that's what takes you from being a good player to a great player. And hopefully that will kind of change for him in a moment. But clearly at the moment, needs a lot of work when it comes to that quality and the end product from him. But I think there were some bright moments. He was asking good questions of the fullbacks, I think, of Bournemouth. And I want to see more from him.
Yeah. Moving on to the substitutes, Lucas Bergvall, who came on at half-time. Sim gives him an 8. I gave him a 7. I was kind of deciding for ages on this, 8 or 7. I did decide to go for 7, but maybe I'm thinking now 8 is probably better. But no, he was our best player, best outfield player for sure throughout the 90 minutes. He comes on straight away, demands that authority. He's taking that responsibility on the pitch that none of our other midfielders were doing, constantly asking for the ball, constantly moving, constantly trying to drive the team forward. I mean, the guy has got such a kind of old head on his shoulders for someone so young, and it's brilliant to see. He's the only midfielder at this moment in time, particularly with Kulusevski out and Kulusevski kind of playing with fatigue before that actually has that forward-thinking mind. And you obviously got Madison there as well, but I just think Bergvall, the way he kind of just is the first name on the team sheet right now, and arresting him for a game on Thursday night just speaks volume of how well he's doing and how settled he is on this team at the moment. So he's our best performing midfielder, if maybe not even midfielder, maybe just player in the team besides Vicario. So I loved seeing his performance yesterday, and his guile and creativity are top notch. And he could have had a goal and a wonder goal at it as well.
Yeah, I think it was a phenomenal second half from Bergvall. So happy to see him come off the bench, because we needed someone like him who had a bit of calmness on the ball, who was able to get his foot on the ball and have that quality to kind of stride past a lot of those Bournemouth midfielders. And I thought the midfield of Bournemouth started to struggle a bit to contain him when he was on the pitch, and he has so much ability. Bergvall, his ceiling is limitless. He can do so much, and he even moved into the 6, and we didn't see him too open when he did that. His kind of that long range effort which hit the post was an unbelievable effort, but we were just able to progress the ball up so much more consistently when he was on the pitch, and we looked so much more threatening. And his dribbling ability, there was one moment as well, he's in the middle of the park and he's got 2 Bournemouth defenders. He just rolls the ball back in between 2 of them and moves to the opposite side. And when he does things like that, you're thinking, wow, what an unbelievable player he is. And what a talent. It's just unbelievable what a talent we have on our hands, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Spot on. I would say, though, if I'm nitpicking a little bit, for the goal that was offside, he did get beaten a bit too easily there, didn't he?
That's fair. And he came rushing in to Tavernier. I had to either take the ball or the man in that situation. Can't let him past him.
Yeah. Let's move on to Sonny. Sim gives him an 8. I gave him a 7. Great to see Sonny on the pitch, obviously. Grabbed us a penalty. The way he won it was brilliant. And obviously slotted it with a Panenka down the middle of the middle of the goal. And look, straight away when he came on, didn't he? He looked dangerous. He looked threatening. He cut inside and had that shot where it was just wide of the post. And I thought, he was giving Bournemouth no ends of problems, and definitely something else to think of that our other wingers weren't providing for us. Yeah,
definitely improved the quality of our attack, and I think he definitely improved how we were playing for sure. I think actually was taking a bit of a different position, I felt, a lot of the time. Was definitely a lot more central than he usually is. And I think late in the game as well, and you could see with where he picked the ball up for the penalty, was definitely playing a lot closer to Solanke. I think there was a point he was even playing alongside Solanke with Madison in behind. I think playing a bit more of a striker role. And his ability to kind of make those runs and ask different questions to that back line, keep them on their toes and get them running back the other way. I think he was doing that a few times. Obviously, he did hit the post, created a few chances. He had that moment where should have laid it off to Sarr, which was a bit disappointing, but the positions he was taking up was a lot more dangerous than Odubeko. Looked like he had that quality about him. And I think he really changed the game with him and Bergvall when he came on. So a really good cameo from Sonny. And penalty, calmness personified, I think it's fair to say.
That's our Sonny. And after missing the last one, he had to put this one in the back of the net.
And considering he missed the last one, just calmness to kind of try that Panenka and kind of dink it like he did. Didn't quite catch it as maybe as clean as he should have potentially, but got it in back in the net at the end of the day.
That's what he was going for. Completely
for the miss hit.
Take the keeper off. keep catch the keeper off guard. I mean, he fooled everyone in the stadium because everyone, with the way he ran up to it, it looked like he was just going to smash it in the bottom right.
Yeah.
And then, disguised into the middle of the park, and Kepa had no answer to it. But brilliant from Sonny. He pretty much saved us yesterday. So.
Is that the first? I'm trying to think of other Sonny penalties. There's not that many to think of, but I don't remember any of his other ones going down the middle. I'm trying to. I think they've all gone down the.
How many penalties has he actually taken us? Can't be more than 5.
Yeah, probably something like that.
Because we hardly got a penalty last season.
They usually all go into the corners.
Yeah. But he says he's been practicing penalties ever since missing that one, and now we've seen what he's been practicing.
But it's like, I think Kane, occasionally, he goes for the corners, but then occasionally you just keep the keeper guessing by going in the middle. So maybe he's learning from Kane.
Yeah, I guess so. And the last player that we're going to rate is James Madison. 7s all round. Came on for the last half an hour. Was probably our best creative spark throughout the game. He created our best 2 chances of the game. Obviously, that ball in behind to find Sonny for the penalty, and obviously the other one where he found Pape Sarr, where he probably should have done better from in that situation. So, yeah, we've got one more player after this, but he did make an impact when he came on. And I think that's what we were missing pretty much from the start. Just someone with a bit of guile, with a bit of creativity that can move in those tight spaces, and that's what he brought us.
Definitely, I thought it was a really good cameo again from Madison. Actually, to be fair to Madison, since he's come back from injury, I think he's been pretty good. And I think it was another really good display from Madison in this game. And I think came off the bench, was working those little pockets. What I love about Madison is in those tight spaces, he keeps the ball so close to him. So hard for the opposition to kind of get the ball off him in those tight spaces sometimes, because they either have to make a foul or they have to kind of allow him that little bit of room to get the shot or pull up the pass. He obviously set up that chance for Sarr. Brilliant ball in behind for the penalty as well. And I thought was a breath of fresh air when he came on the pitch. Sometimes when he's in that mood, he's great to watch. But there was one bad moment when he's running back towards his own goal, and he kind of slipped or kind of dawdled on the ball, allowed Bournemouth to nick the ball off him in a dangerous position, and I think they ended up hitting the post from that move. So that was disappointing, but I think by and large, really great to see Madison in that kind of form.
And now, last but not least, in terms of the outfield staff, and that is Mickey van der Ven. 6s all round. So good to see Mickey back on the pitch. And when the Spurs fans saw him warming up, there was definitely loud cheers and a lot of excitement around the ground, because he's literally I think he's the biggest fan favourite out of everyone in the squad right now, which is great to see. And, it's been a long time coming. He got back on the pitch and we saw those marauding runs down that left-hand side, which everyone was getting off their seat for. I felt like potentially he could have done a bit more to stop Evan Nilsson getting in behind him. But, yeah, apart from that, it was a pretty comfortable display.
Yeah, caught in no man's land for that, unfortunately for him. I think more because of Danso than himself, but looked really good. I actually thought as well, for the chance, I know it was getting put in trouble by Madison, but for that chance where they hit the post, he kind of just doesn't. Again, he's either goes to Cliver or he marks a space in behind. He kind of does neither and allows Bournemouth to have that opportunity where they get a chance from it. I think other than that, though, he was a pretty good cameo. Again, you can see he's still not quite. He's still a bit rusty, and you can see that. But those long stride forwards in the attack were great to see. There was one really good one where he goes all the way down the left hand side and plays a really good ball into Solanke, who miscontrolled it, and the chance kind of went begging. But I think a really promising cameo from him, and it was really great to see him back on the pitch. And I think it'll be interesting to see if he starts on Thursday, but we're going to need him in this run for sure.
Yeah, when he was doing those marauding runs down the left-hand side, a part of me was just like, chill out, mate. We need you for Thursday. No hamstrings now.
Did we notice any difference in running style?
No, I can't say I did, to be honest. Last but not least, Ange Postecoglou, 5s all round for Ange. Look, we managed to turn it around, and I think a big reason of why we did turn it around was the changes that he made throughout the game. I think it was really good changes to bring on Sonny and Bergvall for Brennan and Bissouma. I don't think you need to be a genius to make those subs at half-time, but look, he did it, so credit to him. And I was a critic of his for not making the changes. I mean, he brought on Odubeko, but more changes than that in the half-time of the RZ game. So got to give him credit for making the changes to bring the momentum in our favour. Yes, it was lucky the way that the goals did come in terms of the cross from Sarr and maybe the penalty that we got as well. But look, I think I can understand why he picked that lineup because he's got one eye on Thursday. However, if you've got any ambitions to go and hurt the opposition and go and win the game, you've got to put a creative player in the middle of the park. Otherwise, you're not going to break them down. And I think that's what we saw, and that's why we made the changes at half-time. And it looked whole lot better when Son, Bergvall, and particularly Madison came on later in the game as well. So I think there's clear tactical issues there. But I just think this game didn't really mean much, to be honest. So I think if this performance and this result happened on Thursday night, I'll be a lot more critical of him. But because it's in a game where he's clearly resting players for the game on Thursday, it's hard to critique him too much on the starting lineup.
Yeah, I think he's still using the squad. He's rotating. He's trying to keep players fresh for Thursday, but also trying to put out a team he thinks can compete. But I looked at midfield. I thought, there's no chance we're going to be able to create with that midfield. It's just they're going to be players who are going to not know how to open teams up, and I think that's what happened. And I think that the starting that midfield was a mistake, albeit he said it was a mistake. And then if he plays Bergvall and he gets tired for Thursday, you're like, oh, he's got to rotate him. So I kind of feel both sides and understand why he's rotating. I feel like he could have started one of him or Madison though, and that was a bit of a shame he didn't start
give
either of
them
them.
45 each or something.
Maybe but if we're, I don't know. Yeah, I get maybe.
I guess as well, maybe another thing in his head with those players in midfield is provide legs and steel. So
yeah,
Bournemouth don't win the midfield battle, but it just didn't materialise like that.
I wouldn't even say they won the midfield battle per se. I think it's more just when we're playing out the back, we were just making sloppy errors. And I think that was a lot to do with Bournemouth's pressure, which we clearly didn't come in with a game plan to handle, I don't think, as well as we could have. It was well to do with a lot of rustiness from the likes of Romero and Basuma making mistakes and stuff like that. But I did think the changes helped. And I also think tactically he made a few little tweaks to a few players' positions, which really we benefited from a lot and we ended up getting advantage of. So good tactical changes, getting back in the game, but a lot of the mistakes and a lot of the how we gave up certain positions to Bournemouth, he's got to take responsibility for.
Yeah, which is all building up to a head now to that game on Thursday night, because I genuinely believe if we lose on Thursday, I don't think we see him past the international break.
I think it depends what happens. If it's like we go on penalties, I think he might stay. But if it's like a really embarrassing 3-0 defeat or something, he might get sacked. But I think there's more chance he stays till the end of the season than anything, in my opinion.
Well, all will be revealed on Thursday night, and you know where to catch a watch along is right here. And we are Tottenham TV. I think me and Sim both in the studio for that one.